Alright, this is a video for our one subscriber. He wanted a more in detail video on what I actually did to the front end of my FD. Right now you wouldn't really know it's an FD, but once all the stuff goes on it does resemble one slightly. So I cut it off right here. That's right in front of the strut tower. So I didn't mess with any of the factory suspension points, but I did get a piece of 1-inch skid 40. And I notched that, and I slipped it in and welded it. And then I bent it just using a pipe bender, like your Princess Auto or whatever, you know. Since this is pipe and not tubing, that stuff will bend it at a pretty decent angle. And I brought it down, and I cut that there. And, you know, this cutting wasn't intentional. It was cut because I did want to scrap the car and take all the parts I needed. But, you know, things change, and, you know, this was the next project I wanted to do. And, it should be neat when it's on the road. But you can see I did that, and I cut that, and I put some 2x2 by 1/8 tubing all the way front, and I reinforced it with that piece so it has a steady clamp on the factory frame. And then I brought it over here, and you know, I think that's 1.75 by 1.75 and it's that stuff's just 1/16, but I don't think it needs to be much stronger than that, because if I'm hitting anything, it's, you know, these forks are going to pierce through it. And then there's another piece of 1.5 or 1-inch skid 40. It, you know, bends around, and you know, that little piece of round bar mounts the front bumper. And these little brackets off here, that was for the fixed headlight buckets I'm doing. Now, most fixed headlight buckets come with brackets to make them fit in your car. Once you get rid of the flip-up headlights, it does bolt in. But as I don't have that because it's cut off, I had to make something, and I made a mount. There's 4 holes, and you know, those 4 holes I can space up with washers to get whatever alignment I need of the headlights. So, and then coming down here, I have my one battery tray, and off the other battery tray and the washer fluid, because you know, the Coyote engine does not require the same oil cooling that I guess factory Mazda thought the RX-7 needed. But that piece that for the headlight goes down, and it braces it across the headlight bracket, so it has quite a bit of strength here. And then those 2 tabs are where the radiator mounts to, or rests on, and the 2 sides are a couple tabs I welded on. And the radiator I have is just the cheapest aftermarket FD oil cooler, because I needed one that could fit through the rails, as the Mustang one is much, much wider. And then I had to modify the strut tower, the sway bar, because as you can see, the subframe has been modified. And you know, there's a piece of 1.5 by 1/8, and it's braced off another piece of 1-inch skid 40, and then it goes down to that. And originally I had it connecting straight across, and but the oil pan in the Coyote, it was hitting no matter what I did. So I got a piece of, again, 1-inch, and notched it and stabilized it. It should be strong enough, but we'll definitely play it by ear. And you know, I chose to mount the motor mounts off the frame itself, and these are quite the overkill mounts. But my main worry was that it ripping off the frame, but it's welded in a lot of spots. If it's ripping it out, dear God. So, but that's kind of a somewhat brief overview on how I did anything. You know, there's the steering column. Now, to clear the headers, I had to, you know, extend this. I can't turn it, but what I'm going to have to do is, because it's so freaking tight in there, I'm going to have to countersink the other side in, and use an Allen key bolt or some sort of flush mount, tapered beveled bolt, to flush mount it to tighten around the steering shaft. Kind of like on this side, you can see it has a little inset. I'm going to have to bevel it in, because I need something to clamp it, but I just don't have much room, and that should give me the little bit I need. But this was a factory subframe that was put on my bench. You know, it's a mess here, but as you can see, there's a little remnants of what I used to have on there. And you know, I lifted it up, and I tacked it to my table, and then started cutting it. So the idea was that it didn't move while cutting it, and I, you know, I lifted it up, and I tacked it to my table, and then started cutting it. So the idea was that it didn't move while cutting it, and I, you know, I lifted it up, and I tacked it to my table, and then started cutting it, and I, you know, I lifted it up, and I tacked it to my table, and then started cutting it, and I I put the tubing in there and notched it and welded it up, and yeah, those front tabs are right here. That's for the oil cooler to mount to. Yeah, there and there. And yeah, if there's anything more in detail you want, just feel free to shoot us a question or comment or anything you want. And right there's the transmission mount. It does bolt to the factory holes in the frame, but not the factory transmission mount, because that has a frame that goes to the differential. It's this thing here. It's called the power plant frame, and it goes from the back of the tranny to the diff, and is reportedly some of the problems they have with the diff or transmissions breaking on these cars. But so I used these holes that it has for these factory aluminum braces. But yeah, all right. Anything you want to know, shoot me a question. I'll try to answer it. Have a good day. Ask this eventually, but what am I doing for transmissions and shifting? This is the T45 out of a 96 to, I think, around 99 or 2000 when they switched to the 3560 or whatever it is. I'm sure someone's going to correct me on this one. But since the FD transmission is quite a bit longer, and I'm not going to lie, my engine is sitting about here when it's in the engine bay. So it's a lot more far forward, but there's reasons behind that, and it's basically laziness on my part, because the original V10 I had in here was much longer. I swapped the Coyote V8 in, and now it's one less cylinder, and it reuses the factory mounts. So it's just farther forward, and I didn't want to redo everything at that point. But it did give me more room around the brake master having it farther forward. But this is my shift linkage. It's two factory shifters, as you can see, and on this side it has the shift end cut off, and on that end it has the shifter cut off, and it just has two heim joints that are welded together on a bar, and you go over, it goes into gear. And is this the best setup in the world? Hell no, but it's hard when the transmission's shifting around. But that's what I did for a transmission, and I'm sure as hell there's better setups, but it's the one I got.